Hi, I'm Chip White. Welcome to the podcast Relatively Famous, the podcast where all of our guests are relatives of famous people. I happen to be the relative of Vanna White. I'm her younger brother. And on this episode, I'm stepping out of the norm. Our guest is the daughter of the inspiration of the podcast, which came about from a TV pilot I shot in the 90s. She's my niece and the daughter of Vanna White, Gigi Santo Pietro.
Relatively Famous podcast with Chip White.
Hey, Gigi.
Hey, what's going on?
So, hey, welcome to my podcast. Crazy thing is, this will probably be the longest singular conversation we've ever had in our life, which is kind of bizarre if you think about it.
Seriously.
You know, it's growing up when you were smaller, and sadly that I was not mentally in a state to be a bonding uncle, and life and distances and everything is kind of, we just haven't had a chance to have a really long conversation before, and I'm really excited about this.
Same.
Kind of give our viewers just you're my niece, you're Vanna's daughter. Give us just a little bit of history of, kind of who you are.
Well, probably still figuring that out, but I am Gigi. I grew up in LA, and I went to New York for school for like 5 years. And then I was doing art out there, and I like a lot of different forms of art, but I ended up coming back here to LA for COVID, and then I started tattooing, which has been proven to be my favorite form of art. And yeah, that's where I'm at now. So
I know you always drawn, and your drawings are amazing. But what took you to NYU, to New York?
I honestly just loved the pace of the city, and I want to be a small town person, but I just can't. In my soul, I need to be around like chaos and a lot of people and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it seemed like a good fit, especially for figuring out art and what is going on in the art world out there and stuff.
So at NYU, what was your life like? Because you were, look, I know because I've traveled around, lived in different places around the country. To go from LA to New York City is a huge difference. What was life like for you in this move? How did that change you?
I think that, the city is so much more spontaneous, I guess. Like the actual fabric of the city of New York is like, you don't need to plan where you're going and put gas in your car and then drive at least 20 minutes. Everywhere in LA, it's like 20 minutes, one way. And it kind of changed. It made me feel really free, especially when I was so young, to do what I want and all that. But yeah, I think that just the way that the city moves around is so like inherently different than LA, even though they're both big cities. Taught me a lot of freedom, spontaneity, and there are characters there. There's just no avoiding it. And so, I learned a lot of good things.
What were some of your favorite experiences while you were in New York?
I worked for, kind of loosely worked for a few artists out there. Like one was a gallery called Carriage Trade, and my boss Peter, I was really inspired by. It was this really cool gallery on the Lower East Side, and also this artist Lee Jaffe, who he is like an OG 70s New York artist that just thinks really wildly, and basically, yeah, it let me know that you can be like just an art weirdo forever, and like it's okay, and you're still gonna inspire people, that the next generations and stuff. So that was super inspiring. But
So
yeah.
when you were there, I think you were photography was your major. Was that did you really get into photography? Do you still do that some, or is it an inspiration that an art you still practice?
I love photography, and I love, yeah, so much about photography, and I specifically like film photography, where um, I think it's just like the poetic parts of it, where you only have 30 something shots, and you can't just shoot mindlessly like at least I do now on my iPhone. And it really matters. You have to be like, or it matters to be looking at and focused on your shot, because film is not, you can't take as many photos as digital. So yeah, and then like kind of that meditative part of being in the dark room and no phones allowed also there, and just all that stuff. Like there's like a magic to film photography that I really love, but turning it into a career was hard for me, because I didn't see a way where I could be totally myself doing the kind of photography I wanted to do. Whereas with like drawing, it's a little different, at least with tattooing. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, we'll gear towards your art and towards what you do now. Let talk about the inspiration for your art and the inspiration for your career, because you're going to be my first tattooist when I decide what I want.
Ooh. Well, honestly, drawing has always been my number one thing. Like, just, I've always been drawing no matter what. And then I never in my mind was like, oh, I want to be a professional drawer, like a draftsman or whatever, because then in my mind, that would just be me at home alone looking for inspiration and whatever. It seemed like a pretty lonely, boring life. And then I had a bunch of ex-boyfriends with pretty bad, well, not a bunch, like two, with, with pretty bad tattoos. And I was like, oh my God, I could totally do that. That is like what I could draw so much better. And then I started tattooing, and I was like, okay, this is actually really hard. But I've been working towards it, and yeah, it kind of just checked all the boxes for me in terms of like a job where I'm inspired by other artists around me on a daily basis. Like I work in a shop, and you'd be like, oh, should I shade right here? Or should I make this bigger? Is this place right? Like I would go so insane if it was just me. And so it's just like, yeah, you get to draw literally all day, every day. And yeah, just it's kind of just so ridiculous, but like this ancient craft that's like so beautiful. So that's kind of my whole rundown on how I got there. But yeah.
So you I think you kind of walked into a shop, said, "Hey, I want to learn to do this." Kind of run us through again. I get pieces of your life through a little bit through you and through your mom. Run us through that and tell us. I know where you work, but tell everybody else where you work if you want to, and and that they can see your work. I know they can see your work on Instagram on your account. Kind of do a little self promotion.
All right. Well, yeah, basically I started during COVID. Um, Mom's friend actually knew someone that owned a shop in Huntington, but it was like COVID time, and I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable by going in there. and no one was really like even open. And so went down there and met the dude, and we loved each other. Still love him, Danny Wild. And then basically after that, I was like, I need to move back to LA. And my brother Nico helped me print out a bunch of portfolios of my work. And then I went to like 45 shops and dropped them off. And Lincoln was literally one of two that called me back. And then, yeah, so Lincoln Tattoo Company in Venice, which is just like, I love everyone there. They're just, it's obviously I'm biased, but it's just the best shop. Yeah, they called me back and kind of like took me on as like half apprentice, half still doing walk-ins and like able to tattoo. And I've been there for like 2 years. And yeah, you could check out my work on Instagram, Gigi Santo Pietro. And yeah, it's just like, it's a big family there. There's like no drama. We're all like brothers and sisters, and we just like have a good time. It's like, there should be a sitcom on it.
It's a really cool shop. I've been in there and met everyone. Everyone seems super chill. They seem more like, kind of protective of you, making sure you're learning and no one's, being a prick to you. And
Yeah.
So if someone walks in, if I was to walk in and go, look, I've always wanted one. Every time I think of something, I go, oh no, I don't know if I can have that. I want that on my body forever. How do you kind of work with someone on what they want? I mean, how do you, because it's art and it's forever sort of.
Yeah, that's such a good question. Like, honestly, if someone's unsure, I'm like, just don't get it. Just like, you have so much time. Like, it's such a permanent decision and stuff. Like, just wait on it and like make sure. And I probably won't say this, but at the end of the day, like, you're not going to be in the same headspace and like, whether it's a year or 2 years or 5 or 10 or 20, like, as when you wanted that tattoo. So it's like always going to change. Like, your mind is always going to change around what you want. And I kind of think that that's what's epic about them too, where you can just choose something kind of knowing your mind is going to change and be like, well, we did it. But yeah, I think that if you are unsure, family is a great start. Like, mom, dad, son, all that. And then, yeah, basically maybe a really important date or something like that. Or like the typical mom heart is like, can't go wrong. Like, yeah. So, yeah,
Okay.
it's always like an individual case.
Now, I kind of I'm always fascinated with the fact that you do this. Again, just because I don't have one, it doesn't mean I haven't thought of them. It's because I'm always looking at them. I know other artists, tattoo artists and stuff. What has been your most fun or most creative? What sticks out in your mind of the work that you like? Oh my God, this is the pinnacle for me at the moment, because I know you're growing and you're getting better, and will always continue to get better. But at this moment, what you're like, check this one out. This is the one that really
Oh,
inspires me.
there's definitely a few, but I've just always, like, since like a child, just drawn women, like their faces, their bodies, like everything. It's like weirdly the thing that comes most naturally to me. Like, I don't need a reference or anything. And whenever I can do anything involving a woman, and then usually something with like a skull or a rose or something like that, and make it look a little darker, because I feel like women are beautiful. Whenever there's that like juxtaposition of a woman and then something darker, is like my ideal form of tattooing. I could literally, I feel right now, tattoo women for the rest of my life. Like, if that's all that I could do, I would have so much fun doing that. And so, yeah, probably one of the women with the roses or on the skulls or something like that.
Okay. Well, that may be my
Yeah.
first choice then when I come in. Um, let's
Oh,
switch a little bit. You look so much like your mother when she was younger, and our mother, your grandmother, um,
oh.
it's kind of stunning to look at.
It
What was it
really.
like growing up as a Hollywood kid?
So it's so wild because I would like ask someone the same thing because I did grow up around like other famous kids and all that. But, and I don't know if they would say this too, but like I genuinely feel like my mom is so down to earth and like normal that I never felt like I was like a famous kid. Like, Wheel of Fortune would come on. She'd be like, oh, well, I just want to see my dress and we have to change the channel. Like, we're not going to watch that, Like, and just like her daily activities are just so not what even I would imagine like a famous person would do. And so it's kind of like, I felt like pretty normal despite the like groups that I grew up around that were definitely like just it's like all these famous people's kids or something like that, which like I don't know, it felt very like normal, but I also saw like people whose moms get like glammed up before going to the grocery store and stuff, and it's like that's wild. But besides for that, like I think in my home it was totally normal. Maybe I don't know, but I saw like other people having kind of that like more glamorous lifestyle. But yeah, I think I've pretty much stayed out of the limelight or the proximity of it and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember
Yeah.
going to a couple of your birthday parties when you were younger, and the people that were there, and it kind of like just, and it was just kind of, yeah, obviously normal in your life. And so
Yeah.
you had this huge Hollywood, LA life going on, but I know that Vanna always had a connection with home, and you guys would spend summers in North Myrtle Beach, you and Nico, and for years. What was that like going from LA, from the left coast to from the west coast to the east coast?
I loved Myrtle Beach. I feel like it was just like so, in LA it's not that safe to like just walk around and like your parents not really know where you are but trust that you're going to be good. Walking down like Main Street or whatever. Like I don't really think there's an equivalent, at least for where I grew up in LA. It's also separated and like you have to drive there and whatever. So for me it was just like all the good things. There was the beach, like, great food and just like freedom to walk around and be a kid and stuff. So those were like for sure the highlights of my summer. Just yeah, honestly Myrtle Beach feels like home in a sense, like a second home in a sense of like just how familiar and safe and all that it feels. Definitely a good break from the chaos of LA to go there and all that. Yeah, I love Myrtle Beach. It's
Now,
been fun.
your mom is going to correct you and say North Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, your your dad lives in Thailand, right? Do you guys
Yeah,
get to travel to talk about, the relationship with your dad and your brother and kind of that, because that's a whole different side of Hollywood and life.
yeah. Um, my dad is uh living in Thailand, and he's just like honestly a big inspiration because I hope I can be like he parties harder than me. Like, well, his job is to party. Yeah, it's one of those jobs where you're working for sure, but you're also in a cool nightclub. It's pretty cool.
So I know you've gone to visit him. What was, what's Thailand like for, what was Bangkok like for you?
Um, For me, it felt like New York on steroids. It was just so jam packed, so much movement, chaos, like so many different smells and tastes. And I unfortunately didn't go to like the islands, which I really wanted to go to, those beautiful beaches and stuff. But the center of town, yeah, it was wild and chaotic, which I feel like is where I thrive. But yeah, just a bunch of great food and parties, and there's a lot of cool parks. But yeah, it was kind of just like walking around all day. I didn't have too many plans, just went out there to see my dad. So it was really cool.
So, as we're getting close to wrap up here, what's your desire for the future? I know you love tattooing. Do you see a shop for yourself? What do you see for yourself in the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years?
Oh, um, in the next few years at least, I'd love to like travel around to different cities where fine line black and gray tattooing is popping off, or any style of tattooing. Honestly, just travel around and meet a bunch of people, and then maybe way down the line in the future, open up a shop or something like that. But it would have to be, yeah, many, many years down the road. But for now, yeah, just have a good time and travel around and be like inspired by different artists all around the world that have that like super nerdy passion that I have too. Um, just it's like a super fun thing to geek out on. And yeah, probably maybe do some other business things regarding art and creating some sort of space for artists where they could sell their art and not get robbed and stuff. But definitely have no idea, to be totally honest.
Hey, you're in your 20s. You don't need one. I noticed you mentioned gray and black and gray tattooing. Is that where you kind of plan to stay focused? Or you want to delve into color? I mean, because some of the your art's beautiful. It's very cool. It's in black and white. Would it be different in color? I mean, some of the color things just kind of blow me away too, where they kind of make it look 3D and stuff. So, what's your take on
Right?
that?
I mean, honestly, my goal is to be a jack of all trades, master of black and gray. But I try to pride myself in like having a street shop basis of my craft where whatever anyone wants walking through the door, I somehow am able to give it to them, which is a pretty new thing in tattooing, as opposed to like, well, if it's not on the wall, we don't have it, you know, like, yeah, Ed Hardy did a lot to change that. And I like my joy in tattooing is being able to give people what they want. And so I definitely like, uh, I love using color actually. It's so fun. It feels kind of like violent. You have to really get it in there, but like usually it's always a super fun time, and I would love to do color for sure. But I also right now, which is always bound to change, is why I love tattooing. I'm just super into fine line, black and gray, kind of glossy, chromy, little 90s-esque designs and stuff. That's what's bringing me joy right now.
I love that tagline: "Jack of all trades, but master of black and gray." I love that. All right, have one last question. Is how I try to end the last question on all the podcasts. Is what did I not ask, or did we not cover that you really want to share?
Well, dang, that's a hard one. I don't know. You asked a lot of really good questions. Um, oh, well, maybe just like as a PSA for anyone watching this, um, Like, if you are curious about getting a tattoo, I highly recommend doing your research on the artist and see if they match your style. Because you could walk into a shop and you have no idea what you're going to get, And so, yeah, definitely do your research. Make sure you like them and their style, more importantly. And yeah, definitely just do your research.
That's a great PSA, because how many drunken tattoos have shown up? That's probably
Oh
the
my
one
God.
time I was about got one was on Sunset Boulevard in a position where I shouldn't have been drinking and going, hey, what about that one? Thank God it didn't happen, but hey,
Yes.
this has been fun talking to you, and I wholeheartedly invite you to San Antonio at any time to come hang out with us and check out the tattoo scene here.
Oh, I would love to.
And I'm going to have your brother Nico on soon, hopefully also. I look forward to chatting with him. Who knows, maybe we'll do a family one with you, Mom, Nico. That'd be kind of fun. But
do it.
Gigi, thank you. And it's been awesome talking to you. And hey, go do some great ink today.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Love
Miss
you.
you. Love you.
We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Oh man, that it was so fun to talk to my niece, because like I said, that's probably the longest we've had a single one-on-one conversation, and in a little in depth. Hopefully it'll inspire other uncles to talk. I'd like to thank our partner Nelco Media for helping bring Relatively Famous to our listeners. Whether you happen to stumble across us, this podcast, or you subscribe, or just an avid follower, I really humbly, truly thank you for taking the time to spend with us. I hope you enjoy all of our guests. Hey, you know what? If you happen to be famous, or a famous relative, reach out to us. We could always use guests. Thank you for your time today.
You've been listening to Relatively Famous with Chip White. Please like and subscribe to Relatively Famous with Chip White.